There we go. Okay. Well, we're going to get started, and I know there's just a few of us, but that's okay. You know, we can all learn something. And my name is Martha Renfro, and I'm the Director of Lost Skills, and we're glad that you're here, and anybody who might be watching online, welcome. And today we're going to be talking about how to implement exercise in your daily activities, namely how to exercise while you're doing your housework or, things like that. So the presenter today will be my daughter, Laurel, and she is a certified occupational therapy assistant, and so has a real passion to try to help people learn things like that. And before we get started, we are going to have a word of prayer. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for those who have been able to make it today. And I pray that you will help us to learn things that we can implement in our own homes and in our own activities to better represent you, to get the exercise that we need, and treat our bodies as your temple. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. So a little bit more about me. I have spent most of my adult life being heavy, but I was still always quite active. I played volleyball in high school. I rode my bike everywhere. I'd run a couple miles a day, so always very active. But after having a child, going through a divorce, becoming a single mom, and then going to school, working, all of that stuff, life catches up with you fast. So many times I found that I had to make the choice between, do I have time to cook a meal, clean the house, or exercise? And there's just not enough time in the day to do everything that we want to do. We all know that. And things change when you're a single parent, too, and have the responsibilities of a child, because then you still have to prioritize what you need to get done. And there's not a second set of hands to help. But we all have to make those choices of what can I do and what can I not do. So about 6 months ago, I started, I was at the highest weight that I've been. And I had finally gotten to this point that I really thought that was going to be life for me. I'm in my early 40s, and I have arthritis in my foot. I had swelling on my knee. I couldn't even kneel down in church to pray because it would push the fluid back into my knee, and then I couldn't bear any weight on my leg. So there were so many things that I couldn't do, and my daughter is in her early 20s, and I'm starting to, think ahead to what is life going to look like in 5, 10, 15 years when she has a family of her own and I'm grandma. Am I going to be able to do anything? And then I look at my grandmother is in her early 90s, and she still mows. Okay, and she still serves the church in the capacity that she can, and that's the life that I wanted. I wanted to be able to live my life, to have things that meant a lot to me, to be able to play with my grandkids, to be able to serve in the church or in the community for as long as possible. And in reality, I was getting to the point where, was I even going to be able to do this in my 60s, let alone my 90s? So I took a course at my church called the Metabolic Mastery Method, and it completely changed everything for me. Within a month, my mood stabilized, and I started being able to not get so upset about things that didn't need to be so upset about. And I had peace that I'd never had before. And it was just after I had told one of our pastors is also a doctor, and he's the one who led this group. And it was the week after I told him, that my mood had stabilized, that my grandmother, and my other grandmother, who I was a primary caregiver for at the time, she broke her hip, ended up in the hospital, went through surgery, and then within a 3-week time span, she passed away. And I was her primary caregiver. I was her power of attorney, her medical power of attorney. So I was the one making all the decisions. I was the one signing all the papers. I was the one at the hospital with her 24 hours a day. And that would normally have been a situation where I would have been getting junk food from the cafeteria. I would have been just sitting up there every day, and I would have been a hot mess. But through the principles that I'd learned and being able to change the way that I treated my mind, body, and spirit, I was able to, through that situation, I had peace. My daughter came and relieved me so I could go for a walk or go home and take a shower. My mom helped with bringing healthier food options, and I was able to choose some healthier food options from the cafeteria too. I didn't eat any candy bars, which was a miracle in itself. So it totally changed that situation. I mean, that was a major, catastrophic situation, really. But with the things that I had learned and the exercise, being able to exercise, there was a beautiful park next to the hospital. So whenever someone came in to visit Grandma, I'd take that opportunity and I'd go for a walk. And it was a completely different situation than what it would have been if that had happened 2 months before. The program that I went through, I think, was about 12 or 13 weeks. And by the end of the program, I realized that there was no swelling in my knee. And the pain from arthritis in my foot was gone. And I'm able now to kneel in church, to get up. I have some kids that I play with. I'm able to run around with them. I never thought I would be running again. And I used to run several miles a day. So I never thought I would be able to run again. So, but then again, life hits and that time constraint. So I'm like, okay, how do I get my house clean and be able to still incorporate movement? Well, as an occupational therapy assistant, I specialize in movement and helping people be able to do the things they do every day. And so I know how the muscles work, I know how the body works, how it moves, how it's supposed to move, what we can do when it doesn't move properly. I'm like, okay, well, why can't I incorporate all of that? So that is where this concept came from, just being able to incorporate movement into our daily lives. Mom, did you want to? So I know we've all heard before why exercise is important, so I don't want to beat a dead horse to death. So we'll just go over a few kind of key things. Part of my specialization, I work primarily with geriatrics, though I have worked with other populations all the way down to pediatrics. So I've had kids from 2 to 105. So being able to work with that, one of the things that I've realized, especially being in my early 40s, that after the age of 40, you lose 1% of your muscle mass per year if you don't do something else about it. So if you just keep doing the same things you're doing after 40, and especially after menopause, for us ladies, you lose at least 1% per year. Now, with bone density, that's another thing. Women can lose up to 25% of their bone density in the first 10 years after menopause. And what happens when we lose our bone density? Yeah, so osteoporosis, osteopenia, all those things we're at higher risk for, fractures, and fractures can completely change your life, sometimes for just a short period of time, and other times, for life, for the rest of your life. Our joint flexibility also has a significant impact on our longevity and our ability to stay independent, stay in our homes, things like that. So if you can't scrub your back, okay. But what happens if you can't clean yourself after you've gone to the toilet? Then we have other things coming into play. So not being able to tie your shoes, wear slip-ons. Can't put your pants on, suppose you could wear a dress, but, sometimes it's nice to wear pants outside. So what is the best exercise program that you can do? There's so many choices out there. Any ideas on what the best one is? Aerobic, okay. Any other ideas? The best exercise program is the one you'll do. It doesn't help if you won't do it. So some important components to look at, though, when you're deciding which exercise program you want to look at is weight bearing. That's one thing that's really key, especially for your bone density. Any of your weight bearing exercises, that's going to help increase your bone density. I recently saw one of the program videos, and one of the ladies on there was talking about how she had severe osteoporosis as a very young woman. And that's one of the things that they'll tell you. It's not reversible, all of that. Well, she changed to a plant-based diet, and she started doing weight-bearing exercises, and she completely reversed it.
So what do you mean exactly by weight-bearing exercises?
So your weight-bearing exercises are anything that you're using your body weight for especially. So, and you can add other resistance to it as well, but like squats, things like that, those are weight-bearing exercises. So some of your more aerobic activities, while they're good for your cardiovascular, those are not weight-bearing activities because you're not really bearing the weight on the joints as much. You're focusing more on momentum. So you want something that's really bearing the weight that you're really having to work through. You also want to try and go through a full range of motion as much as possible. One of the things that I see the most with older adults is losing shoulder range of motion. And that impacts so much. I've had patients who couldn't even feed themselves because they couldn't lift their shoulder enough. So if you look at this, just to get to the table to reach something, I'm lifting my shoulder. But theirs was stuck down here, so they couldn't even lift their shoulder enough. Now that, thankfully, is not super common to have it that impinged, but it's actually quite common that they can't comb the back of their hair. So moving through that full range of motion, you want to work with programs that are going to allow you to work through that full range of motion, or design your own program that allows that. And you want to incorporate your available resources. So we're going to be talking more about that in a little bit, of what you have at home that you can use for, instead of buying a lot of equipment, because most of us don't have the time or space for a home gym. Wonderful for those that do. Invite me over and we'll work out together. But most of us don't have the space or the financial resources to get a lot of equipment. So we'll go through some of the things that you can use at home. So let's see. So some of the principles of a home exercise program: you want to find a routine that works for you. Both a time frame and the type of exercises that you're doing. Now, the recommendation used to be 30 minutes a day. Now they've increased the recommendation to 60 minutes of exercise 5 times a week, at least. 5 to 6 times a week is usually what they say. You need to be intentional and be consistent. And I know those are some of the things that I struggle with the most. But when you're intentional with your exercises and with your movement and incorporating it in, that helps to create those habits and routines. And a lot of times you'll find that it kind of spills over into your other activities because your body kind of gets in the habit. Your muscles have memory. And so they remember, oh, when I'm doing this, I move like this. And so those muscles become more habit. Those movements become more habit. So you can turn any activity into exercise. Some of the main things that you want to look at are using proper body mechanics. So one of the big things for that is keeping all your major joints in alignment. So if you need to pick something up and you squat, you want your major joints in alignment, back straight, not bending from the back. If you've worked in any type of setting, you've probably had that type of training before. If you're turning, you want to avoid twisting at your joints. They're not generally designed for twisting quite as much. So some of your joints, especially like your hips, they can twist more, but your knees really can't handle a lot of twisting. They're a hinge joint, so they're designed just to move 2 directions generally. So when you're doing your rotation, you want to make sure that you're only rotating joints that are meant to rotate. Your spine has some rotation, but you also want to be careful with how much you rotate the spine. And you definitely don't want to be picking up something heavy when your spine is rotated, because it's not designed to carry weight in that direction. So, and then, like I said before, we want to focus on a complete range of motion whenever possible. So one of the things that I like to do and that we learned in the program that I took was going through a full body stretch and just kind of take all those joints through a full range of motion before you start your exercises. And it doesn't have to be 20 minutes of stretching. You can go through the whole thing in 5 minutes. You just want to make sure, you're getting all the movements in. And then using intentional muscle movements and avoiding momentum. So we talked about that briefly, and we'll talk about it more when we go through some more specific exercises. But one of the things that we do in a normal day, we just kind of go through our day when we do things, but we're not really paying attention to what our muscles are doing. So if I'm washing the window really quick, okay, I'm using momentum. But if I'm really intentional, I wash the window, then I can pay attention to my muscle movements, and you can still do circles, but I can make sure that my muscles are fully engaged rather than just, certain muscles are working and the rest are just enjoying the day. So, and make sure to work bilaterally. Use both sides of the body. Being right-handed, I tend to do just about everything with my right hand. It's more cumbersome when I try to do certain things with my left hand. But you want to make sure that you're doing, especially if you're using this as your exercise program, you don't want to be lopsided. That causes a whole nother host of issues. So you want to make sure that you're using both sides as equally as possible. All right. Any questions about that?
I just had a comment.
Sure.
There was somebody who was sending out a newsletter that I like to follow, and she said that she likes to look. So I had a newsletter that would come to me periodically from a professional, and I thought it was interesting. This particular day, she was talking about being intentional about exercise and looking at it as if you had an appointment.
Sure.
Like a doctor's appointment.
Right.
Would you blow that off? No. So, if you want to be intentional with yourself, to look at it as an appointment, a real appointment, and you take it very seriously. And that was kind of helpful for me because, it's easy to let those things go unless you have a partner.
Right.
that holds you accountable.
Right. Accountability partners are great.
Yeah.
So, thank you. All right. So, I'm going to step out to where you can. We're going to go through a kind of basic stretching routine where you can hit all of your joints and really try and work through a full range of motion. So, this is audience participation. All right, so we're going to start with our neck, and you can look up and then down. If you have any problems with dizziness, though, what I want you to do is look up, stop in the middle, and then look down. And that will help, because otherwise, if you're just looking up and down, if you've had any problems with dizziness, that can exacerbate it. Okay, and the same thing with side to side. If you have any problems with dizziness, stop in the middle before you go back to the side. And you can do these 2 or 3 times. You're just trying to get things moving. If something's a little stiff, maybe you want to spend a little more time there. And then circles. And my neck sounds like Rice Krispies, so hopefully the mic isn't picking that up. All right, and then shoulders. And then as you get bigger circles, you can incorporate your arms in that. You're going to go through that full range of motion. Hit your forearms and your wrists. Okay, and then you want to go the other direction too. Yeah, there's the... Yep. We all have Rice Krispie joints today. It's time to get them moving. All right. Then you can do a little side to side. Okay, and you want to be careful with your, especially if you have back issues, just be careful with your rotations. But your spine is designed to move a little bit in all these ways. We just want to be careful that we're protecting it. All right, and then down. This is a back stretch, so you can, yes, feet about hip width apart. And then this is a stretch for your back, so you can just kind of round your back because we're not adding any pressure to it. Just giving it a nice stretch. And then kind of roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. And then you want to go back the other way to stretch the front side because you always want to stretch alternating muscles. Okay, and back down. And rolling up. And back there. Yes, breathing is good. I heard somebody breathe. That's good. So you want to make sure you're taking nice deep breaths through all of these. All right, so one of the other things in stretching your hips, you can kind of lean to the side and stretch over. And if you feel it from ankle to shoulder and even up into your elbow, that's a good stretch.
That I should be doing this before I go out to the garden.
Yes. You can do this first thing in the morning. And we're going a little slower here, but you can just go through kind of a full range of motion through your whole body in 5 to 10 minutes and then start your day. But now your joints have more fluid going through them and they're moving more fluidly. So it'll help with all of your movements through the day. All right. And then for the hip flexors, you can kind of stretch back and lean back, and that stretches right through here. This is another muscle that gets tight, especially if you do a lot of sitting in the day. You get into some awkward positions with stretching, but it's fun. It feels good. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the ones for the hamstring, if you can't hold on to a chair, if you can't grab your foot, you can put your foot up on the chair and just bend your knee down until you feel. And that's fair. You know, there's some things there'll be limitations for. So, and then, of course, the other side. All right, so, and then for your hamstrings, you can stretch out like this. So one at a time if you need to, or you can do both at the same time. And this one you want to keep your back straight for and just bend at the hips because you want that stretch through the back of your legs.
Lifting your toes.
I tend to lift my toes because I'm sticking, my center of gravity is back, and this is how I balance. But you can sit down, yeah. So, or just do one leg at a time if you need to. And then for your calf, some people will push against something for this one. You can push against a wall, or you can just go straight out. And you want to keep your heel down so you get a nice stretch through the calf. And if you bend your knee, you'll feel the shift. There's 2 muscles that make up your calf, and that will help stretch the other one. So leg straight stretches one. Bend your knee, stretches the other.
Would those exercises help when you have like a cramp?
They can. Yeah. And let's see, we'll go through. I like to do the ankles, especially as we get older. I don't know how many times mom's rolled an ankle. So you can also do it like just out here, but I like to have a little stability when I do it, so I roll my toe. And one of the things, I don't have the right shoes on for it right now, but you can stretch your feet as well. No.
I've got what are called Barbie doll feet. Like
Okay.
shaped like this.
Okay.
They're already stretched.
All right, and another way to stretch the ankles, you want to be careful. You don't want to put too much weight on this because you can sprain an ankle this way, but you can stretch it this way. And then, of course, to stretch the opposing muscle, again, you want to be careful with this one because with your knee turned like that, you don't want to put too much pressure because you can torque your knee also.
So it's like that?
Yep, so put your foot out and then just pull back so there's a stretch through the ankle.
So the majority of your weight is on the opposite leg?
Yes, so I'm bearing weight on this leg. I'm just using the floor to just hold my foot so that there you go.
And I walk from
Yep, you can do it sitting too. All right, so those are some easy stretches that you can do, kind of go through a full range of motion and play around with it too. If there's certain muscles that you feel are particularly stiff, you can kind of figure out how to stretch those. That's a more active form of stretching. Sometimes I'll do a stretch like this, which is also active stretching, but I'm getting both sides. I'm getting outside and inside of my leg. So there's different things that you can do. Those are the warm-up stretches. A lot of times, you'll see people who go through deep stretching, and it used to be that they would recommend that before vigorous exercise, but now they're actually recommending that it's when your muscles are warmed up, so you have less chance of getting those micro tears that can happen in the muscles. So but going through the full range of motion first is really good because then you have that range of motion, your muscles have a little blood pumping to them, the joints are moving more fluidly. And then if you want to do a more in-depth stretch, I would recommend that after your exercises, the muscles are nice and warm and more pliable, and then you can get more stretching and more flexibility in with your longer stretches. Yes, it helps the blood flow everywhere. Yeah, I'm sweating. All right, so some of the things as a therapist, when I send people home, a lot of times I'll recommend an exercise program, and they'll tell me, I don't have any of the equipment. Well, I understand that. Some people will go out and buy it, and some people don't have the resources to. So a lot of times we'll tell people to use their cans for exercises with the home exercise program that we have. But if you're doing your exercises right, these get really light really fast. And for some, when you're younger especially, this wouldn't do me much good even starting out. Because I'm active, I lift people for a living. So this isn't going to compare to the things that I do on a daily basis. And for a lot of you, it won't either. So if you need to, you can start with things like soup cans, but you quickly outgrow those. And, the big cans get too big. So I found things like my laundry detergent. I get Costco size. It weighs 15 pounds. I checked. So I'd learned some kettlebell exercises, which I'm just learning. I'm not huge into those yet. But that was one of the things that I used my laundry detergent. Well, one of the other things that you can do, I don't know where you put yours, but mine's on a shelf right here, and I'm lifting 15 pounds. So that's where you use, instead of trying to use both hands, I try to use just one hand whenever I can. Of course, it gets lighter as we go on using it, but I can use this either to do my exercises because I have a separate exercise program. I just try to incorporate my movements in my daily life too. I can use this as a kettlebell for those movements, or I can just be intentional about my movement as I'm putting it up there. And if I'm using two hands instead of where I'm using different muscles, I can use the same muscles and put them up there. So I'm working both sides at the same time. So, one of the other things, if you're wiping off the table, you want to be really intentional. I'm going to use my left hand this time. Really intentional with your movements. So with the table, you can incorporate a lot more of your body into it because you're on a lower surface. So if I have one leg back and I'm bending, remember those major joints, bending at the hips, and I can use my hand for stabilization and push out, making sure I'm being really intentional, and back. So I can just really intentional as I'm pulling back, squeezing through my shoulder blades, kind of pulling that shoulder back. So I can even, at the end of this, I can come back and go even further.
That's getting some of your own resistance.
Right, you're using your own body resistance. Yes, that only goes so far, but at the same time, I'm being really intentional about that movement, and I'm taking it back to the end of the range of motion. And then I'm coming back out, and I can go across. And so here is where you want to be careful with your twisting. So I can do across this way and go this far, or I can shift my feet so that my knees are headed the same direction, and I can go diagonal like that. And working across with diagonal, I'm going to move these. Then I'm incorporating my pecs. So just different movements, you're looking at different muscle groups. And as you're being intentional with your movement, you'll feel which muscles are contracting. So you'll be able to say, oh, that's a new muscle I didn't hit last time. And you'll be able to kind of figure out where the direction is taking your muscles, which muscles are taking your joint in that direction. And then circles, again, being intentional, but this is a full arm workout. And you can do out to the side. And if you turn your arm to the side like this, I can feel this in my triceps too. So now I've incorporated that as well. So we're all going to look really funny cleaning the house, but at least we'll know what we're doing. So another easy one to do is with a vacuum. This one's squeaky. So as far as, there's a lot of things that you can do with a vacuum. If you want to incorporate your lower body, you can start with lunges. Okay, and as you move, and then, of course, you want to switch sides too. So, and then with your movements, being intentional with your arm movements as well. So, and again, you can squeeze through your back, squeeze your shoulder blades together so you feel it through there. Lunges is actually one a lot of people are doing nowadays with vacuuming, so you won't look, you won't be the only person cleaning their house with lunging with vacuum. So a friend of mine this morning, I was telling her about the class, and she was telling me that she was, I'm not getting this to stay up. Okay. And she was telling me she was going to be dusting today. And so she said, well, what can I do with dusting? And I said, well, just first of all, make sure you're not doing your willy-nilly thing. And she said, that's exactly how I do it. So you're being intentional, as you're up here, you've got this movement across like this. And if you see we that same movement we had during stretching. So if you're doing the top shelf of your bookshelf, I have a tall bookshelf like this, so top shelf of your bookshelf. And then both sides, so get the back with whichever one you can reach better. And as you're coming down, still being intentional, but now we're hitting different muscles. So still being intentional with this, and then this way. And if you've seen some of those aerobic videos, this is pretty common in aerobics. So you can do that with dusting your shelf. And then the next shelf down, you've still got the same thing, but you're working muscles further down now. Now you're hitting your sides even more. And then the next shelf down, this would be fun. You get there, squat. And on the bottom one, I don't know if I can do this one. So, yeah. I can now, yeah. See, I couldn't have done that 6 months ago. Not even close. Well, it's something to work towards. 6 months ago, the best I could do for a squat was this. Because if I started to go any lower, I would flop over. And I didn't have the right body mechanics for it. So I was literally doing squats like this. And now I'm going down further and up. So the more that you do this, the more you'll find you'll be able to. And if you need to, sit on a chair for those lower shelves to start with. And then, let's see, there were a few others. I should have jotted down more of them. But the mop. So there's a couple of things. I was raised a little bit old school. And with mopping the floor, I still prefer to get down on my hands and knees with a rag. But I keep a mop because my daughter will not do that. So one of the things, to do something a little different than what you do with the vacuum, you can go to the side and do a side lunge with your mop as you're doing that. And again, intentional arm movements. Yes, this is really good for balance. And balance is something that's really important for being able to stay active and have that longevity. So you can do your side lunge with that. And this would work for gardening too. Like for gardening and mopping, being able to, down with my rag. The rag's not going to slide on the carpet. So down with my rag. It's core stabilization. Yeah, this is huge for balance. This is huge for balance. And you may not be able to do it at first because it does take a lot of balance already to be able to do that. But then you're... So another thing for gardening too is when you're, I do weeds on my hands and knees. The hoe gets in my way as far as I'm concerned. So being able to pull your weeds. So being intentional, and believe it or not, just this movement alone, and if you need to pull back, the next day, I feel it. So yeah, it's squats in a different way. So, and the same thing if you're mopping your floor, even if you're not sticking your leg up like this, just being able to move like this as you're moving, and make sure any cross movements are very intentional because your spine is twisting with this a little bit. So very intentional movements. But as you're moving, you're basically getting a squat in. Because you're getting your movement in, you will feel it there the next day as well as in your arms and shoulders. So I think that's kind of the main ones that I had thought about. What are some things that you guys, that maybe we didn't cover, that you do in a normal day that you think you could incorporate movement into? And we can talk through it. Stairs. Oh, that's a great one. There's a lot of ways to incorporate that in stairs. Yeah, or slow it down. So instead of taking your stairs quickly, slow down the movement, and then you're really making those muscles work. So, one stair at a time. You could go up just one leg at a time the first time, and then the next time you use the other leg, and take a few seconds to get your foot up there. Or another thing I like to do on the stairs is, I don't see a step I can use. Calf raises. So I'll put my toes on the step. Here, we'll simulate here. I'll put my toes on the step, and I'll dip my heels down below the step and then up on the toes, and do about 10 of those.
And that one is very,
Yeah.
very good. If you have plantar fasciitis or something like that, that's how I got.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
With plantar fasciitis,
All right.
that is really helpful.
So heels down. And you can do this for a stretch too. There's a really great stretch in my calf with this. And then up and down, up and down. That's a really great calf exercise. All right. So any other activities you do in a day, we can go through and brainstorm some other ways to do it.
One thing that I've been noticing working in my garden, I'm not doing as much kneeling because I've had some problems with my knees.
Sure.
I'm trying to give it more of a break. And so I've been doing this, more which is good. It gives you, but I've been noticing I've been really tight, and it's really bothered me. So I'm trying to do this more, bend the knees, and doing it, rather than just always this. What?
I will do this. You're squatting, but you're like,
Yeah,
this works. I can do this for quite a while.
yeah, squatting.
Put my arm on it like this.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah,
That helps me not hurt.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Or you come down and rest an arm on a leg while
Yeah.
you're doing
sure.
squat.
Any other thoughts or questions or activities that we can add movement to or be intentional with movement? Laundry. So laundry is a good one. My laundry room is kind of a galley, so it's very narrow. So it's hard for me. Like, one of the things that you could do your side lunge with, if you pull out from the washer and side to the dryer. So you can do that. I would hit myself on the back wall. So for me, it's more, I can pull it out, up to the side, and in. But I'm holding on to the washer then. So, and then pulling out of the dryer, you can do a full squat into your laundry basket and holding. So one of the things, we look at repetitions a lot, but you would be surprised how much work it takes just to hold the movement. I was at an exercise class this morning, and one of our exercises was a single leg raise. You're literally just standing there holding your leg up for as long as you can. I lasted about 30 seconds. So those are good weight-bearing exercises, and they're really, that's causing your muscles to work really hard for a period of time. So repetitions are great, but just holding a stance is also another really great way to do an exercise. So you can pull your laundry out that way. And with folding your laundry, being really intentional about those arm movements. And you can hold a squat during that too, or you can just keep doing squats while you're doing it. If you're sitting, you can just do some leg exercises that way while you're folding laundry. One of the things you could do is put both legs out, put the shirt out to fold it, or just one leg at a time. Okay, and that's working those same muscles again to hold that movement. I'm trying to think of other things you could do with laundry. Well, those are some pretty good ones. So, also, for mine, since I couldn't do a squat in my laundry room, I could just focus on my arm movements. So you can do that with the dryer too. Any others?
What about washing dishes?
Washing dishes. Okay, with or without a dishwasher? Just putting them in the dishwasher, or what? What's that? Without? Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that you can do while you're washing the dishes is you can do hip extensions. So while you're washing here, because with the counter in front of you, doing a squat, I'm not even going to try that. But because we want to work both sides of the body, those hip extensions are really good for that. And it also helps stretch your hip flexor a little bit. So while you're washing your dishes, you can hold it. I told you we're going to look silly, but we're going to feel really good. Yes. Yep. So you're weight bearing on the one, and so I'm weight bearing on this side while I'm extending this side, and you can help keep your balance because you're at the sink, and even if you put your tummy up against the sink, just to help keep balance.
But it would help you, and this is what I haven't done, but I need to, is balancing one-legged.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So
I recently did physical therapy, and that was one of the things that I was having trouble with.
On the standardized tests that we use in therapy, single leg stance is one of the things that they really look at. How long can you hold that? It's key in balance, and it's really, again, key for longevity. So that would be a really good thing to do then while you're doing dishes. Just kind of lean up against the counter so you have that support for stability. Raise one leg up behind you, and that's going to work these muscles, but it's also going to help with stabilizing. It'll help increase your balance. We'll feel really silly, but we'll feel really good too.
I'm just picturing her husband walking in and seeing her doing the ballet.
See, these kind of things make me glad there isn't a husband to walk in. My daughter gives me enough weird looks.
Sorry about that. I just dropped the microphone.
Mic
So,
drop.
I wanted to ask Laurel, are you willing to share a little bit about your results?
Oh, sure, yeah. So I had mentioned that I was at my highest weight, and as of this morning, I've lost 58 pounds. Congratulations. Thank you. And I have, and I'm continuing to lose. I lost a lot during the program and then kind of settled into a routine with life, and I continue to lose about 1 to 2 pounds a week. And it's the first time in my life that it just kind of feels natural, because before I've lost and gained probably my body weight a couple of times. And I just couldn't find something that was sustainable for me. So switching to a whole food plant-based diet, I do 2 meals a day, and usually 1 time a week I do a full 24-hour fast. And that has been huge. I've had my mood stabilized. I've had things in my body change. I don't have the same pain that I have. And in my field, it's uncommon to meet someone who hasn't had a back injury, and I'm one of those who has had back injuries. And I'm able to still do the things that I want to do with minimal pain. And it's been huge. So in addition to the weight loss, I've dropped several clothing sizes, so my clothes are all a little baggy right now, but I'm still, good problem to have, I guess. So it's been huge for me, and I really truly believe that even for my daughter, just seeing me take those steps to make lifestyle changes, she has struggled with anxiety and depression for years. It was really scary as a parent because I didn't know what I was coming home to every day. And 6 months after I did my program, we went to a lifestyle program for her where she's gotten help with her anxiety and depression. And by God's grace, she is continuing to heal. And I'm, now that twitch that I get when I can't get a hold of her is just habit. It's no longer that same fear that what am I coming home to? It's that lingering habit because this is fairly new. But I really believe that it was me taking the step to make the changes in my own life that helped give her courage to make some changes in her life. And that's been huge. So now we're both, the doctor that ran her program put her on the same as I am with a 2-meal plant-based diet. And so it helps a lot because now we're on the same page.
So, what's your routine?
My routine? So it's in transition right now because I just changed jobs. Okay. But I would get up in the morning and I'd go through my stretches. And then usually I would pick 2 or 3 different exercises depending on what I was doing. And I would do maybe squats and push-ups and something for my core. And so I would do 10 reps of those, and I'd usually do 5 sets. And it just depends. I change it up because I get bored. But I also started walking to work because I worked until this past week when I changed jobs. I worked 2 miles from home. So I would walk to work every day. So 2 miles in the morning, 2 miles in the afternoon. And then recently, preparing for a canoe trip where I'll have to take all my stuff with me. So I have, 50 to 60 pound pack. I've been adding dumbbells to the pack. And I'm up to 40 pounds now. So I decided I did not want to be the weakest link on this trip. So things like that. Actually, for the first time in years, I started running again. So I haven't done that regularly yet, but just being able to run again was something that I never thought I'd be able to do. So I personally like to change it up. Some people do better with routine. I'm more of a variety person. But again, it's what you will do. So you do want to focus, though, on different muscle groups too. Like I'll do my arms, I'll focus on arms one day and legs another day. And a lot of times I'll throw abs in all the time because your arms and your legs, they need breaks. Your abs, just keep going. And I'll do things for my back as well to help strengthen that, because I still do, from my back injuries, I still get spasms and things like that sometimes when it gets exacerbated. But for the most part, I'm pain-free, and even with my spasms, it's completely different. And one of the things that I've noticed for myself, and since we're all women in here, and if there's any men watching online, plug your ears, and I apologize. But even my menstrual cycle has completely changed to where I had a lot of pain with mine. I mean, sometimes to the point that it was just bed otherwise. And now it's another day, mostly, It's normalized completely. So I've seen changes through my whole body that have just, yes, it's been a tremendous difference. And I think for me, the weight loss is the most exciting, because not so much because of this number on the scale, but because of the energy that I have. I play volleyball usually once a week, and as long as I can make it. And I've started jumping again. I didn't jump before. I'd do everything from feet firmly planted on the floor, but I've started jumping again and even trying to block, and that's huge for me. So I feel like I'm actually reversing in age. Whereas people would tell me I looked like I was younger, but I sure felt older. So, did that answer it for you?
Is there anything special you do with your breakfast?
Breakfast?
Do you have any food routines?
Yeah, so what I tend to look for is this was one of the things that they taught us in the program that I did too. I try to make sure that for breakfast I have one grain, and then either a second grain or one legume, at least 3 fruits, and 1 serving of nuts or seeds. And that is my breakfast. So, I don't know, I've been on an oatmeal kick lately, and I haven't really felt like doing anything else. So I'd do 2 servings of oatmeal, and then I'd put all of my fruit servings and my nut serving on top of that, and, loaded oatmeal bowl. So, yeah, and then for lunch, it's 1 grain, 1 legume, 3 vegetables, at least 3 vegetables, and then 1 nuts or seeds. So that's made it really easy for me to, some days, I get more fancy than other days, but some days, if I'm in a hurry, I don't really have to think about it. I make my oatmeal, I put my fruit on, add some nuts, and I'm good to go. And that's been the game changer for me, is I can put as much or as little thought into it as what I want. So I keep simple things, like for lunch I may throw together a salad, so I've got all 3 of my vegetables that way. Put some beans on it, and either some sunflower seeds, or maybe I'll make a cashew-based dressing. So that's really helped for those days that I want to put less time into it. And then if I want to do like a really real entree, or if my daughter is tired of eating rabbit food, then I can do, I have a lasagna recipe that uses zucchini for the noodles, and it's cashews instead of ricotta cheese. And so I'll make that. And so I've got at least 2 of the vegetables because of the tomato sauce. And then I've got the seeds, the nuts or seeds serving because of the cashews. Oh, and there's spinach in it too. So there's more vegetables. Yeah. So I have all of that in my entree, and then I can put a salad with it, or I can and put some beans on the salad, something like that. So I can do really simple, or I can do really fancy, and just depends on how I feel that day. But it makes it easy so that I don't have to, just ditching today. Mm-hmm. I keep certain staples that if I'm in a hurry and I don't have time to do something different, I know I can at least put together a healthy meal that's going to make me feel full and get me through the day, give me what I need, and it's going to fit my meal plan. So, because I'm not one who has the patience to count carbs or count calories or count, I didn't even do very well counting fiber. So I'm just like, okay, I need one of these, 3 of these, and 1 of these. Done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. All practical things for all of us to do. And I know that I'm going to have to make sure I'm intentional about how we do things. And it's just wonderful to see what God can do in our own lives and in our health. And Lee, I think you've had some experience with that too. And we all need to do that, And thank you, Lord, for making our bodies so yes, wonderfully and marvelously made. They can regenerate in a lot of ways. So let's have a prayer. Lord, thank you so much for what we've learned today. Thank you for what you've done in the lives of Laurel and Riley and Lee, and we all can have those results too if we will intentionally do things that will help our bodies to regenerate. That you've created us in such a marvelous way, and we thank you and praise you for that. And Lord, all of this is for your honor and your glory, to glorify you to others around us, that they will want to know you also. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.